Hi, welcome to my glamorous workshop. I'm Beth from Restyled Pieces Boutique, and today I'm going to be taking this vanity and restyling it along with a chair that I had previously used for just staging photos, but it is rickety, it's broken down, it has the rattan coming out of the bottom. I want to try to upholster it. I don't know if I can do it. So if you want to see if I can pull that off, stay tuned. I picked up this French provincial desk / vanity to work on that, to restyle it, and it has beautiful curves, and I love the hardware. It's in pretty good shape. The top is laminate, so I can't stain or sand it down to bare wood, but I can paint the whole thing. The drawers work well, and it is from Bassett, which is a very good brand. I also have this chair that I previously used for staging, but it is in rough shape. It's wobbly and the rattan is broken through on the bottom. It needs a fair amount of work. So we'll see if I can take care of that. I don't know if I can upholster that, but we're gonna see. We're gonna find out. I wanted to remove the old rattan, so I got out my box cutter, tried to cut along the sides, which is one of the videos that I asked or watched said to do, but that didn't work really well. It was kind of a disaster. So I turned to some other videos and I decided I needed to use a spline tool. Well, I didn't have a spline tool. It's to remove spline in the rattan part of the chair. Didn't have one. That didn't go too well either. So I kind of gave up and said, I'm just gonna start cleaning this piece. So I vacuumed inside the drawers and the insides of the drawer openings. I like to remove the hardware before I clean, so this has some beautiful French provincial hardware on it that I have removed, and then I put it in a little container to keep my screws with all my hardware so I won't lose it. I also check the sides and the back and look the piece over very well to see if there's any repairs I need to make. Then I start cleaning. I use Crud Cutter and I spray it on, wipe it off. It's a degreaser and a cleaner and it works very well. Then I move on to rinsing my piece, spray my piece with water, wipe it down so it's ready to sand. Then I can sand. I get my Festool dust extractor with my Surf Prep 3x4 ray attached to it. I have this great tool from Tool Curve that attaches it so easily. I use a flat paper and I sand the top with 180. Then I switch to a medium grit foam pad. Now these foam pads work really well for sanding around all those curves on this dresser. After sanding, it's time to clean off all that dust with a little bit of water and my microfiber cloth. That was just a dance break. Sometimes you have to do that. So I wanted to tape up these holes in the drawers so that I leave the drawers in when I spray if the drawers are flush, and I don't want any of that paint getting inside my drawers. So this is how I tape them up. So I have sanded, wiped it down, and guess what? I just decided to cut out all that rattan and leave the spline there. No one's ever going to see this because I'm going to have it covered up with layers of foam and upholstery. So we'll see. Hopefully that works. As I said, it's not just the upholstery. This chair was spindly, was not sturdy, and it needed a lot of holes and dings repaired. So I'm going to try to repair these spindles, but first let me get in control of these holes that are all over this piece. So I use my Bondo all-purpose putty. It comes in 2 parts. This is the cream hardener that you mix in until it's a solid color, and then I can repair those holes with this. There were also a few little dings in the back of the desk that I needed to fill in, so I used my popsicle stick, taped those on to be able to make a well so that I could hold that putty in there until it dried. So it is time to sand again. There's lots of sanding in furniture refinishing. So let me get all this putty that has dried smooth as silk, and you can see every once in a while I will run my hand over the top of it to make sure that I've got it really smooth, because you can feel a lot of those imperfections if they're not smooth. As I said, this chair was very wobbly, so I used my Titebond wood glue and some clamps to get those spindles secure, get the legs secure, and glue that all together. I then used Zinsser Shellac Bend Spray. It is a clear spray that I use on all these little places that have exposed the wood where I've sanded the finish off. I like to spray that lightly before I go to priming the entire portion of the desk or the chair. I love using these 4-wheel dollies that I got from Lowe's, and I put a piece of plywood over them, and I can just spin them around when I am painting or working on a piece. So let's get this primed. I watered down my primer a little bit so I can run it through my Wagner 3500 Flexio 3500 sprayer, and I'm adjusting my spray pattern. So I'm turning the flow or the spray pattern to where I want it, so it's nice and a fine mist and there's not a lot of splattering when I go to spray. So as you can tell, my primer is gray and the paint is also gray that I'm going to be spraying this piece with. So on the desk part that I'm getting ready to spray, you can actually see in this portion a little bit of difference in the color. It's just really nice to have your primer be a similar color or a light color if you're doing light paints. I have a dark black primer that I use when I paint black pieces. It just makes the coverage go better and easier and less coats. Also notice that every so often I turn the nozzle. That's because when I'm spraying horizontally, that back and forth motion, I want to have my tip of my sprayer in a horizontal spray. And when I'm spraying vertically, I change my tip to where it's up and down or vertical for my vertical spraying. All the painting and top coating is completed. My project is dry. And now for the moment of truth, the upholstery. These are the supplies that I am using to upholster this chair, and I will list them below so that you can see them easily and be able to find these items. I watched many videos over and over and over on how to do this, so we'll see. And here's my little dog, Maggie. She's a good supervisor through the whole entire project. So the first thing you do is you take your webbing. You don't want to cut that off. You want to leave that long. You can see how I have that whole length of that webbing down the edge of the chair. You're going to staple on just on the inside of that spline crevice. So that's what I'm doing here. And I want to leave about 1.5 inches of material left so I can double that over. And it would be nearly impossible to do this on your own because I need both hands here. So my husband helped me out through this project. You want to use a web stretching tool that I got on Amazon. And then I hold that taut, drum taut, and staple again just on the inside of the spline crevice. The bottom is pulled taut and stapled with that web tool. Then I go back up to the top and I cover over. I use that 1 or 1.5 inches, and I fold that over and then staple that portion. And just to make sure they're secure, I sometimes use my hammer to pound them all the way in. So then I cut off the bottom finally of that portion. I fold that over and staple again. Here you can see, again, I'm repeating that same process. I use a second webbing. I decided to use only 2. That was plenty for the size of my chair. Sometimes you may need 3. Stretch it, staple it, go back up to the top, fold the top part over, fold the bottom part over, and staple those pieces. Now I've turned my chair and I'm going to weave that webbing in and do the exact same thing I did on the other side, except I'm using a weaving pattern. And next step, you take, oops, not the foam, you take the burlap that you cut 3 or 4 inches bigger than your chair, and you're going to fold that over about 1.5 inches or so, and you're going to start in the middle and staple that in the middle, and you don't want to staple all the way across because you're going to be stretching down in the middle, and you want to start in the middle to the middle. So you'll see what I'm doing here in just a minute. Next, I'm going to be cutting that fabric down at the bottom somewhat, and then I'm going to be doing a gentle stretch. You don't use the web stretching tool for the material. See how I'm just pulling it slightly and doing a gentle stretch, and then I'm stapling it. Again, this is stapled on the inside of the spline line. So gentle stretch, staple, gentle stretch, staple. And I'm going back up to the top and I'm doing the ends and stapling those. Now you notice that I'm not stretching this part because this is the first section that I'm just attaching it. Then I will go to the bottom end, and that's when I will start stretching when I have the top end already attached. So you'll notice my line is not perfectly straight. That's okay at this point, as long as they're all connected to the wood and the staples are all secured in the wood. The next layer is my cotton layer. So you can see my burlap I have finished. I'm just going to trim with my hand gently the cotton layer to kind of feather it on the edges to where it meets the canvas. So this part I found a little difficult. Instead of just stapling it flat, you have to roll over the edge, the top edge of the foam. It'll hold better that way. And then you staple it to the outside of the spline line. This is the first time that you will staple on the outside of the spline line instead of inside the spline line. So the outer edge. So you can see again, I'm just stapling my first side down. I'm not stretching anything, just rolling over that top edge of that foam and stapling it on the outer part of the spline line. Okay, here I'm going to cut the bottom edge. I barely stretch it, I cut it, and it looks like it's a little too short, but that's okay because you're going to do a gentle stretch before you roll it over and staple the bottom. So gentle stretch again, just like you did with the canvas or the burlap. Gentle stretch, roll over, staple on just outside of the spline line. So a lot of patience and a lot of time has gone by. I finally got my foam on the chair and I was thinking, oh, it's time for the material. But no, I have another layer of cotton batting. So I do the same thing that you saw me do before when I put this over the canvas. I'm just trimming it and feathering it on the edges all the way around. And now it's time for my fabric. I was so excited to get to this step. I don't know if it's gonna work out, what it's gonna look like, but I trim it about 2 or 3 inches too big when I first put it on, but then I trim each side a little more carefully because I don't wanna make it too short, fold it under a little, and then I also staple this over the foam outside the spline line. And don't worry about that if it's not perfect, the staples aren't perfectly straight, because I will be using trim. It's called GIMP, and it goes around the whole entire square. I did attempt to make it as even as possible, but you can see it's not perfect. Now it's time for my trim. I found these great finger protectors because I will be using a hot melt glue gun, and I put them over my thumb and my first 2 fingers on both hands. This is my trim, my GIMP, it is called. The edge of it is a little frayed, so you want to fold over just a teeny bit of the edge and glue that so you won't see the fray coming through. I then started at the back of the piece, so the seam would be in the back and it wouldn't be noticeable. You're going to put a thin line of glue under your trim and only do about a couple inches at a time because the glue dries quickly and you want to make sure you have it positioned exactly where you want it and that it's straight. And you'll be able to see the details of this in a little while when I get to the other side. So you can see here that I am gluing this section. I get it glued down and quickly I realize it's not exactly where I want it. So if you do it within, 20 seconds or something, you can pull it back up and reposition it. Not a problem. So when I get to a corner, there's no cutting, there's no folding. All you do is just gently work it around in a curve and it just works out beautifully. Here you can see that I'm picking off some of those dried pieces of glue gun. Just make sure you have a nice thin, even line as you go. Don't glob, and it will spread out as you push it down. So you can see I still have that long piece of my trim. I never cut it. Just like the webbing, I use the long piece and I do the whole entire square before I even think about cutting anything. And voila! I was jumping up and down for joy. I cannot believe this way this turned out. It is so pretty, amazing. When I could move my legs, I was definitely jumping up and down for this. It fit perfectly with the desk. It just is gorgeous. Just another look at the before of the desk and a before of that rickety chair that I fixed up and fixed the bottom, and I saved that chair. I'm so excited. And here's the after. Thanks for joining me today here at Restyled Pieces Boutique. Again, I am Beth, and I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. I have a goal of 1,000 subscribers for the year, and I would really appreciate that. And if you would also like to be notified when new videos come available, hit that little notification bell. Send me a comment. Let me know what you think. I hope this video has been helpful, and I will see you next time.